You know what? I'm actually pretty excited about talking about this team. You know, aside from my Titans, who just kind of bring me disappointment, talking about them, talking about the uncertainty of that future. Let's talk about some team that actually has a very bright future. And actually, if I wasn't a fan of the Titans, shoot, I would totally root for these guys. Let's talk about a super fun team this time. Welcome back to the Titan Tavern, and where all fans and guests are welcome. I am your host, Tristan, and everybody grab your favorite drink, and let's talk about some more NFL teams. And today we are talking about, personally, an actual fun team to root for from this previous season. And you may be asking, who is that? Well, of course, it's none other than the surprise team themselves with a rookie quarterback and rookie head coach, the Houston Texans. First off, their coaching, I love it. I love their coaching staff. I love D'Amico Ryans. I think he's amazing. I think he's an amazing head coach, and I think he's just gonna make this team get so much better. You can tell that that team loves that man and will do anything for him. It reminds me a lot. This team reminds me a lot of Detroit as well. They have a lot of similarities. Like, having their season was so much fun to watch, especially with CJ Stroud at the helm. He was honestly one of the funnest people to watch this entire season, other than maybe Puka. I mean, come on, everybody. Yeah. I mean, I think even the announcers love doing Rams games just because of that name. But in all seriousness, a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback making it to the postseason, winning a playoff game, finishing the season 10-7. They overachieved, but also at the same time, it feels like they achieved what they wanted at the same time. Of course, week 17, sorry, not week 17 anymore. Yep, week 18, of course. It was really the decision between the AFC South winner, who's making it in and who's not. And of course, you had the Titans beat the Jags, who knocked them out of the playoffs, and then you had the Texans beat the Colts, which knocked them out of the playoffs. So the Texans not only won the AFC South division with a rookie quarterback and head coach, they also went and had a home playoff game against the red-hot Cleveland Browns with their offense with Joe Flacco, and put a 40 bomb on them. However, of course, their season did come down to a crashing halt whenever they did have to go into Baltimore and face the Ravens, who was looking at that time like one of the best teams we had seen in a long time. So as far as it goes, I mean, CJ Stroud just was a miracle with that team. Because this team, being perfectly honest, the Ravens game was the perfect definition of, they are a amazing team. They are not Super Bowl caliber just yet. You gotta put a lot of respect on the coaching staff and, of course, just the players themselves. They all balled out this year, all of them. It truly felt like this team, they were like, we know we are beat talent-wise, but we're not gonna give up. And I loved that fight, and that's why I say they remind me of the Lions too. Because even whenever the Lions were bad, they never gave up. They always fought and fought and fought. And it's one of the best storylines about football. Yeah, the team may be bad, but if they got hard and they're not going to give up, you'll be shocked at what happens. But in all seriousness, talking about what they need, I mean, I think it's very simple with what they do need. It's gonna take a few seasons to build this team, but man, you really got pieces in place, from quarterback to receiver to running back to even some studs on the defense. This team is going to be dangerous, and I could definitely see C.J. Stroud leading this team to a Super Bowl with D'Amico Ryans, and I would actually root for them to win, unless they're playing Detroit, in which case then I don't know, I think I'd have to go with Detroit on that one, unless they won a Super Bowl by that point. But of course, now we're going to go over their season that they had, as well as looking into what they need to do, because it is a lot, but it is also not a lot, if that makes a lot of sense, just due to everything, all the pieces that they've got. And of course, we are starting off the first section. We are going with the man, the myth, the legend, the insanely talented C.J. Stroud at quarterback. Of course, we're going to be talking about him first. Okay, so going into quarterback, C.J. Stroud is 100% the quarterback for the Houston Texans for the next decade and a half. I just want to go over some of his stats are insane, and I just need y'all to realize this, because keep in mind, this guy is a rookie. He's going up against people that have been in the league for way longer than him. And I mean, listen, if you saw him during the preseason, you were like, yeah, this kid's going to struggle. I don't know what happened between the preseason and the regular season. What magic happened. I'm just going to go over the simple stats for him. And then we're going to talk about him just as he was. First off, he was 319 for 499 attempts. Completing 319 passes for 499 for 4,108 yards. So as a rookie, he threw for over 4,000 yards, and he had a really good completion percentage too. He threw for 23 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. And there's one thing that I really want to specify about these 5 interceptions. It's like, he threw 3 of them. He only threw 3 of them in one game, and that was against the Arizona Cardinals. Other than that, keep in mind, he did get injured, and he did miss 2 games. Other than that one bad day, where they let me double check something. Yeah. Even whenever he had a bad day, they still won that game. And for the other games that he played, I just need to go ahead and tell you, he only threw, if you take out the Cardinals game completely, he only threw 2 interceptions. So through 14 games, he averaged an interception every 7 games. Because keep in mind, he did miss 2 games, taking it down to 15. You take out the Cardinals, that's 14. 1 interception every 7 games. is better than Aaron Rodgers. His intelligence with just his football IQ is insane. And with the team that he had around him, with the line that he had in front of him, you would have been like, oh no, this guy would have thrown like 15 interceptions, 16. No, not even remotely close. I mean, yeah, the guy had one bad game, and they still won despite that. I mean, come on. The dude's incredibly intelligent with football, and he knows what to do, and he helped run that team, run that offense so well. He didn't even have, at points, a reliable run game. He just had to sling it. And come on, we've all seen how clutch this dude is. Like, I mean, you think back in college, he only lost to Georgia because his kicker. You think about some of these games. He lost to Atlanta because of Young Waiku. That's it. Other than that, the amount of times that he had for game-saving drives, game-winning drives is insane. This kid's going to be insane. And I am honestly, I'm saying this as a Titans fan, and we're going to face him twice a year. I don't care. I'm rooting for this guy all the way. I'm just super happy to see. But seriously, this guy is going to be insane, and I'm going to be rooting for him. I think he makes the NFL fun. He makes the AFC South fun. And I'm actually really looking forward to the AFC South next season. Because you do have, like, Will Levis and Trevor Lawrence, who we're going to figure out. We're going to figure out for Trevor Lawrence how he bounces back from a bad season. We're going to see how Will Levis is. We've seen Will Levis be good. We've seen him be not good. And then of course we've got Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud, all three of those quarterbacks going into their second season. Trevor Lawrence is the oldest one in that division. So if you talk about quarterbacks, listen. C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and Trevor Lawrence. That's just a fun conference. That's a fun division to look into. And I think it's going to be fun next season for the South. Yeah, our rivalries haven't been much. Except for the Titans and the Colts, we just hate each other. But as far as it goes for rivalries, I mean, come on. I think these quarterbacks are going to bring back these rivalries between us. But it's also a respect rivalry. Because I'm going to be rooting for Stroud easily. I think he's going to be the best quarterback in the division. Just give him, honestly, the end of next season. If not the beginning of 2 seasons from now. He's going to be the best QB. Into another room. We're talking about the running backs. And of course, the running backs did not have the greatest season for this team. However, they were still very useful with everything that happened. Basically, you have Devin Singletary, who had 216 carries for 898 yards, but only did score 4 times rushing the ball. And then, of course, you had Dameon Pierce, who ran the ball 145 times for 416 yards for only 2 touchdowns. So, obviously, there was not a lot of production from the running backs, but also at the same time, this team was pass first, which is going to be kind of the trend especially once we leave the South. And definitely whenever we don't have to deal with the North. the South and the North are pretty much primarily running. But once we get to the East and the West, it's going to be, these guys are going to be passing like crazy. Except for Philly. Mainly because the tush push. Yeah, but we'll talk about that more later on. But of course, you have these running backs. Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary, they had okay seasons, and honestly, the main reason why I would say that they had bad seasons was because, and this one's going to be also coming from the point of protection as well. The line was not that good this season. Their offensive line was not good. And it's not good at all, and considering that CJ Stroud also got sacked 38 times and did get injured due to taking hits because he was, not even because he was holding on to the ball for too long, just because he had no protection for him. The running backs was the weak point of the offense by far. But I do think if you get this team a little bit better on the line, you're gonna see a lot more production from these running backs. And honestly, what's even scarier is the fact that the Texans did not have a good line, and CJ Stroud still balled out, by the way. But I do think that is kind of the reason why we saw Dameon Pierce, who, of course, the season before was incredible, and then just kind of did drop off. Hopefully it was just a sophomore slump, and he can get over it. Of course, Devin Singletary, I always do kind of root for this guy. Always have. I just like to root for him. So I hope for him. I hope he gets successful as well. As far as the running game, they ran the ball 444 times, which is the exact same as the amount that the Titans ran the ball, which I thought was actually pretty funny. Be excited about seeing this team and how they go with receivers. And now we're talking about, I'll admit this, I'm jealous about the Texans for this. Because I don't even think they need wide receivers. That's the thing. But that's the section that we're moving on to, the wide receivers and the tight ends. And seriously, their number 1 and number 2 tight ends, I can't remember the age of Tank Dell, but he was a rookie. Nico Collins was 24 this season, so he's going to be going into next season potentially 25 years old. That is still insanely young for a wide receiver. And let me just talk about their stats real fast. Nico Collins, first off, has a great connection with CJ Stroud already built. And he's fun, and he's fast, and he's dangerous. He was targeted 109 times and caught the ball 80 times for 1,297 yards. So he didn't even have to catch the ball 100 times to get to 1,000. He averaged per game at 16.2 yards. He had 8 touchdowns, which is actually, oddly enough, the same amount as Calvin Ridley. Yes, I said the name right this time. And DeAndre Hopkins. Of course, his longest was 75 yards. He also had he had the 75-yard bomb against the Colts, and I believe also was the Browns. I'm not quite sure about that one. I'd have to fact check myself for that one. But of course, all in all, that's an incredible season from him. He fumbled once, but they didn't even lose it. Yep, he's an insanely clutch receiver, and he's just going to get better. And that's the thing about the AFC, is we're just going to see some of these wide receivers get better and better and better. For example, the next one, who is only a rookie, and is honestly, I think, going to be... I think next season, depending on how he comes back, if he comes back and he comes back playing even better than he did this season, I think Tank Dell is going to be an easy top 10 receiver next season. He was only available for 11 games, and he did catch the ball 47 out of 75 times, 75 attempts, for 709 yards, averaging 15.1. He had 7 touchdowns, just one less than Nico Collins, with a long of 68 yards, and never fumbled the ball. Now, of course, if you watch the Texans while they had Nico Collins and Tank Dell on as their receivers 1 and 2, you saw how dangerous they were. Basically, you choose, do you shut down Nico, who's got speed on you, or do you shut down Tank Dell, who, guess what, also has speed on you? And that's a dangerous duo to do anything against. Because you take out speed, but you then deal with another speed. And a lot of times that can be countered by a lot of deep safety help. But with how talented these guys were, it was pretty hard for defenses to really lock down either one. And then, of course, you had old reliable Dalton Schultz, who had a good bounce back season, and he needed it. And I think he can stay the tight end for a while with this team as well. Dalton Schultz was targeted 88 times, caught 59 for 635 yards, only getting 5 touchdowns, but still averaging 10.8. Now, if you notice, 16.2, 15.1, and 10.8 yards, averaging that. That's averaging a first down every catch. Of course, his long as well was only 31, so he was much more of just the safety net tight end, which makes sense because, well, you give a rookie a safety net tight end, and he is going to love him easily. And sometimes they just never detach. For example, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. I mean, come on. However, he did fumble once, and that one resulted in a turnover. But honestly, sometimes they do just get unlucky with the bounce of the ball. But 100%, I think he's still their future tight end. I think he's just gonna pretty much stay about the same, if not get a little bit better. But he is going to be that safety net. And he is a pretty daggone reliable safety net as well. And then, of course, you have Andrew Beck, of course. I mean, come on. The dude was a monster. Fullback. You gotta represent the fullbacks. 11 out of 13 for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns. No, but seriously, I'm just happy seeing a team use a fullback other than the 49ers. But other than that, you had Noah Brown, who was 33 out of 55 for 567 yards, averaging 17.2 per catch for 2 touchdowns, a long of 75. So the yards are a little bit inflated due to that. And you have Robert Woods, who, let's just be honest with you, Robert Woods has always been insanely reliable, no matter the team that he's on. 40 for 75 for 426 yards, again averaging 10.6. So that's a common denominator we're seeing, is the fact that they don't do slants. They don't do 3-yard pickup, 2-yard pickup, 5-yard pickup. Their offense was 10 yards, 15, 16, 10, 15, 16, 10, 15, 10, 11. Like over and over and over again. and it was insanely entertaining to watch. But of course, now I'm going to just basically say their offense, their only weakness is that offensive line. That's where they need to improve the most for offense. However, I do think this team does need more help than just an offensive line. But I will say, once that offensive line gets basically two solid linemen, it's going to be dangerous. And that offense is going to be fun. And I am looking forward to it 1,000,000%. Because let's be real with you, it doesn't matter at the end of the day who you root for. We all just want to see some fun football again. But now we're going to go on to their real needs, and that is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. A side of the ball that I don't know much about. I know a lot more about offense. I can tell much more about receivers, tight ends, a little bit of quarterbacks, and I'm good at telling about offensive linemen as well as running backs. I'm not so good with telling defense. It's a lot harder to examine everything because a lot of times, and we've seen it in just some plays, sometimes just stuff happens. But we're going on to the defensive side of the ball. Other than the offensive line, this is where I would say the team does need the most help. As far as it goes for defensive linemen, you had Jonathan Grenand. He was basically the leader in the sacks with 12.5, and of course had the most tackles for loss at 15. He was definitely the leader of everything dealing with the defensive line. And I know you also have Will Anderson Jr., who was, of course, still very good with everything. I think he's going to get just better, and I think he is going to improve. I do think everybody on that defensive line is going to improve, but what I will say is, as far as it goes for their defensive line, is they are missing somebody that can get better. I'm not gonna say better pressure, but they're missing somebody that can take up more than one offensive lineman. They're needing a dominant defensive tackle that can just not necessarily plow through the line, but basically take up like their center and a guard. Because if you're taking away two people with one, you're allowing your defense a much easier time to blitz the quarterback. Well, not blitz the quarterback, but just pressure the quarterback. And the more a quarterback is pressured, few exceptions, mind you, the more quarterbacks are pressured, the worse they are. And as far as it goes for really like defensive backs, you do need to look into some more defensive backs. Now these guys at the near end of the season, they had, and they, I hate saying this phrase, I hate so much, but let's be real, they had the dog in them, and they pounced at everything. But it was just late in the season whenever they started to do that. So maybe it was just because they were finally starting to get better and better while playing, while getting more reps. But also at the same time, they also did let up a lot of big plays. And with that, you also have the linebackers who, I believe 2 linebackers had over 100 tackles. I believe it was like one. Let me see here. me see. I didn't write it down in my notes. But yeah, you had Blake Cashman had 106, and you had Christian Harris with 101. However, I will say this. Their third leading in tackles was Jalen Petre, which is not a linebacker or a defensive tackle or a defensive end. It's a safety. That's not necessarily a good look for your defensive backcourt if one of your safeties is your leading tackler. Well, not leading tackle, but yeah, he's number 3 by about almost 10 tackles. So I will say, like, all around, I think you're going to see, especially in this draft, I think they're going to target an offensive lineman because they're going to want to keep CJ protected. But I think past that, you're going to see D'Amico Ryans get whatever he wants. Of course, he was defense before with San Francisco before becoming a head coach. But you're going to see him being all over this draft past one pick, in which I think they need to target an offensive lineman. But he's going to look at all the linebackers, all the defensive tackles, the defensive ends, the cornerbacks, the safeties. He's going to look at all of them saying, I want my pick. And past that, really, I think that's all the Texans need. They need to target defense heavily. But really, whenever you look at the weapons, and then you look at the quarterback, and you look at the head coach, and you look at their offensive coordinator, who they kept, by the way, this team has nothing but a bright, bright future. If they build this defense right, this is going to be an insane team. And I cannot wait to keep watching this team. Subscribe, all that good stuff. And of course, I am your host, Tristan. You're welcome to my tavern at any time. Of course, as long as you pay your tab. And of course, always, even whenever I made a whole video saying I was rooting for a team, a different team this season. As always, though, tighten up, baby.